silence never sounded sweeter.
Hello, welcome to my channel if you are new here, and welcome back if you are old here. My name is Ashley, this is Ashley Faith. So we're going to be talking about the damsel in distress trope, and the thought for this video came into my mind whilst I was reading this book, which is very interesting to me because this book, as you well know, is part of the Twilight series. It is the first book from a perspective where Bella is a boy and Edward is a girl. The characters are changed to two characters called Edith and Beau. We all know that this series isn't without its flaws, isn't without its problems, and neither is the author of the series. Stephanie Meyer has come under criticism for various things that I will be talking about in a different video, just not this one, because I think it's a big topic that deserves its own video. And one of those valid criticisms is her misuse of a real Native American tribe, the Quillette tribe. They're struggling at the moment with the threat of natural disaster. I will link in my description a website where they talk about their histories and their struggle at the moment, and you can donate to them if you have the money to. I'll leave the link to their website, the Move to Higher Ground webpage, in my description so that you can go and help them out, because I think it's very important that we go ways to solve some of the problems that the series caused. There is many valid criticisms of this book, which I will not deny any of them, but there's one criticism that always felt unfounded to me. It felt ridiculous and not backed up. I could stomach all of the other criticisms that this series had against it, and this was not one of them. The fact that it was bad because it was about a girl who didn't want anything other than a boyfriend. She didn't want anything other than to become a vampire because her boyfriend was one. And I think that is an invalid criticism of this book, because first of all, Bella, she saves Edward countless number of times, and I think a lot of the criticism that the series got was just for the fact that it was something that teenage girls like, and that is something that goes on within all popular culture, that what teenage girls like gets criticised. They get criticised for liking things that are too girly, they're criticised for liking things that are too boyish, and everything that teenage girls like, the interests of teenage girls, are looked down upon by society as a whole. This is an opinion that Stephanie Meyer also had. She felt that the criticism of her books, where Bella was criticised for being a damsel in distress, where she just has these men who are saving her all the time. Stephanie Meyer also felt that this criticism was invalid. Now I'm gonna read a section of the book, the foreword. You know, Bella has always gotten a lot of censor for getting rescued on multiple occasions, and people have complained about her being a typical damsel in distress. My answer to that Bella is a human in distress, a normal human being surrounded on all sides by people who are basically superheroes and supervillains. She's also been criticised for being too consumed with her love interest, as if that's somehow just a girl thing, but I've always maintained that it would have made no difference if the human were male and the vampire female. It's still the same story. Gender and species aside, Twilight has always been a story about the magic and obsession and the frenzy of first love. So I thought to myself, well, what if I put that theory to the test? That might be fun. This section of the foreword shows that Stephanie was getting mad at the criticism that Bella was a damsel in distress, when in fact she was a human in distress. All of these situations where she had to be saved, these were situations where only people with superpowers, vampires, shapeshifters, they were only going to be solved by people with powers. And so what she did in this book, she swapped the genders, and she showed us that even with a boy, a man, in that character role, it still could work. And I think for me reading it, as you'll tell in the vlog, I will put it in the card up here, it really gets you to interrogate that bias that you have in yourself when you read that book. I was reading it, and there were 2 points in the book that actively had me interrogating my own biases about the dynamic between the 2 main characters. And the first one of those is in the original, it's called The Alleyway. scene. That's like, I've had people discuss it as the alleyway scene. And in the original series, Bella is approached by a gang of men and it's insinuated that they were going to, you know, her in the alley. And Edward saves her from that because he can hear these men's thoughts. And in Life and Death, the situation in the alleyway is to do with the gang crime, and Beau happens across some gang-related incidences and they want to kill him because he's seen too much. And both Edith and Edward, they arrive on scene because they can see Bella and Beau in their like mind-reading brain and save the situation. And in the book, when the car, the Volvo, the shiny Volvo, comes down the alleyway and Beau is like, what? I was like, this is straight. Like in my, you know, my instincts, I was like, wow, this is weird. I don't like the fact that this teenage boy is being saved by this petite, small teenage girl. This doesn't feel right to me. And then I paused and I was like, why doesn't this feel right to me? Why is this making me uncomfortable? Why am I uncomfortable that this teenage girl is saving this teenage boy? Why is that? And the second point where it really hit me over the head with the directness was in the meadow scene where Bella is confronted to Edith, Edward, about the fact that they think that they're a vampire. And, you know, Edward, he pulls the tree and the roots and he throws it across the meadow and gets the big boulder and like throws it. It doesn't seem unnatural for a man to do that in the original book. But then when you read it in this book and you have this tiny petite girl ripping out trees from the ground and carrying boulders twice the size of her, Beau and the reader were both like, wow, that doesn't add up. Why can this girl do that? That doesn't feel right, you know? That is weird. And that is the problem, that we have this societal thought, this hive mind, that men can't be saved by women. And if a man is saved by a woman, that sort of like demasculates the guy. And I think that is present when you have this complex that women need to be saved by men. On the flip side of that, it means that men can't be saved by women. And I think it's completely untrue. And I think it's a really interesting thought to have. And when I came up with this thought, it was 4 a.m. I don't know where it came from. I was really upset that night. It was 4 a.m. and I was reading this book and I turned the camera on and I just spoke. And I might have eloquated it a little bit better, so I will link that video. And I also spoke about this on a podcast called Queens of Twilight podcast with a wonderful girl called Grace, and I'll link that in the description also if you want to hear me and Grace discuss this. But I think it's a very interesting point to bring up. And again, you have this, the top side of the coin is that men save women and that women can't be saved by men. But then on the other side of this similar coin, you have this criticism that Bella falls in love too fast. But then I also had somebody DM me when I talked about this on my Instagram story, and they DM'd me and they said that they thought Beau fell in love too fast for a teenage boy, which had me thinking, why are we criticizing teenage girls for falling in love so fast and then denying the existence of teenage boys that fall in love fast? And my boyfriend, you fell in love with me fast, didn't you? Didn't you?
Maybe there was a connection.
Maybe there was a connection. So just this one man disproves this theory that teenage boys can't fall in love fast. And that relies on this stereotype that teenage boys, they don't care for committed relationships. They're just in there for casual sex and using girls. And some teenage boys are like that, but it's a harmful stereotype to place on them, because it means that when they fall in love when they genuinely fall in love, or when they have a love at first sight moment, or when teenage boy characters, they have a lot of romance subplots in their stories about them, it's somehow unrealistic and cringy, which is what this person who messaged me said. And I think that is so crazy, that we criticize teenage girls for this, but we expect it from them, and teenage boys apparently can't do it. Teenage boys can't fall in love fast. And I think that is something really interesting that this book has brought out discussion-wise for me, and I think it's something that I will take forward into my reading experience when I'm reading, especially YA, when I'm reading stories with romance plots. Do the boys who fall in love fast seem unrealistic to me, and how can I change and impact my own biases? How can I change that? And how can I discuss with friends and other readers and myself some of the sexist tropes that we have in literature? That video did not feel like it was succinct, so do be sure to watch the vlog. I'll link it here because I feel like I explained it a lot better in that vlog, which is really annoying. And I'll also link the podcast if you want to see a discussion I had with my friend Grace. And that is everything. We have under a month to Midnight Sun, which is very exciting. So do pop back onto my channel to see more Twilight content that's going to happen. I am going to be talking about the valid criticisms of the book and how I think it's important that we take them as a fandom seriously, and as readers, as we take this seriously. Don't forget that I link the Move to High Ground website in my description. If you can afford to spare a few pounds, a few dollars, and donate to the Quileute tribe if you're a fan, that would mean so much to me, but I think it would also just mean a lot to them. Don't forget to subscribe, comment down below something interesting. Are you excited for Midnight Sun? And give me a like or a dislike. I don't care. The engagement still goes up if you dislike it. And yeah, thanks for being a faithful, and thanks for watching.
100 people, I only hear 99. Didn't expect it, look in your direction and it's my demise. You looked at me and I couldn't believe that an angel had come just to sit here with me. And I tried and I tried, but I just couldn't read your silence. Never sounded sweeter.